Hello. First of all, I must say something. All right, let's begin the video. Today, I'm wearing my favorite tie. I'm wearing my favorite shirt because this is the book you must read. If you care about 20th century literature, this is the book. Don't tell me about The Great Gatsby. Don't tell me about The Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. I don't want to hear about those books. Winesburg, Ohio by Sherwood Anderson. This is the book. Technically, this is a collection of short stories, but I do consider it a novel because in this small town of Winesburg, Ohio, there is a very small newspaper called the Winesburg Eagle. On this reporter, we have a young, up-and-coming journalist named George Willard. He runs around the town trying to get all the gossip and the information. Not too much in a very small town, but he does his best to learn about the inhabitants of this small town. George Willard is the thread that connects the majority of these stories. Often he's just a side character. He's mentioned as a friend or a confidant. In a few of the stories, he is the central character. Let me tell you some of the titles of these short stories. The first one is called Hands. And every short story is concerning a certain character. So Hands, which is concerning Wing Beetlebaum, particularly good. Paper Pills, concerning Dr. Reefy. Mother, concerning Elizabeth Willard, George's mother. You know, we have this wild list of titles of the stories, all about one of the members of this society. And also, just for fun, we have this little map of Winesburg. And this wonderful novel, collection of short stories, is a very penetrating look into the lives of all of these characters. Like, if you've never read this, Sherwood Anderson is absolutely a master. This book is pure, perfect literature. For me, it gets the highest grade straight across the board. The writing, the beautiful portrayal of these human characters. Like, all of the characters in this book are like real people because he causes you to understand their struggle, their desires, and how they relate to the other members of this community. It is magical, this book. I'm going to read you my favorite excerpt. It's really a joy for me to read this because I don't think there is any other author I would like to emulate in my own writing. Sherwood Anderson, perfect style. No flair, no fireworks, no wasted words. If you just looked at it sentence by sentence, these sentences are simple. He just lays it down, kind of like a journalist, the most basic sentence construction, and the emotion just pours out of his writing. If I could write like anyone, I would love to write like Sherwood Anderson. All right, so I'm going to read you something, and I hope I'm going to do a good job of it. The end of one of the stories. I know, I'm giving away the ending, but it's one of the stories out of many. So come on, give me a break. So this story is called Adventure, and it is concerning Alice Hindman. I'll give you some of the backstory. Alice Hindman, when she was 16, had a love affair with an older man. He also worked on the Winesburg Eagle, which is how George Willard figures in the scenario because, you know, she knows him, they know him. And this older reporter, he went off to Cleveland to make a life for himself and to make some money. And he promised Alice, when I'm set up and established and I've got some money, I will come back for you. We'll get married and then we'll both move to Cleveland. And of course, Ned Curry went off to Cleveland and he got involved in that big city life and forgot about Alice Hindman. It's a tragedy, but, well, you know. Alice never forgot about Ned Curry, and she waited for him to come back to Winesburg to take her away so that they could start their lives together. And she waited, and she waited. And so this is the last 2 pages of the story. Alice took a pillow into her arms and held it tightly against her breasts. Getting out of bed, she arranged a blanket so that in the darkness, it looked like a form lying between the sheets, and kneeling beside the bed, she caressed it. whispering words over and over like a refrain. "Why doesn't something happen? Why am I left here alone?" she muttered. Although she sometimes thought of Ned Curry, she no longer depended on him. Her desire had grown vague. She did not want Ned Curry or any other man. She wanted to be loved, to have something answer the call that was growing louder and louder within her. And then, one night when it rained, Alice had an adventure. It frightened and confused her. She had come home from the store at 9 and found the house empty. Alice went upstairs to her room and undressed in the darkness. For a moment she stood by the window, hearing the rain beat against the glass, and then a strange desire took possession of her. Without stopping to think of what she intended to do, she ran downstairs through the dark house and out into the rain. As she stood on the little grass plot before the house and felt the cold rain on her body, a mad desire to run naked through the streets took possession of her. She thought that the rain would have some creative and wonderful effect on her body. Not for years had she felt so full of youth and courage. She wanted to leap and run, to cry out, to find some other lonely human and embrace him. On the brick sidewalk before the house, a man stumbled homeward. Alice started to run. A wild, desperate mood took possession of her. "What do I care who he is? He is alone, and I will go to him," she thought, and then, without stopping to consider the possible result of her madness, called softly. "Wait," she cried. "Don't go away. Whoever you are, you must wait." The man on the sidewalk stopped and stood listening. He was an old man and somewhat deaf. Putting his hand to his mouth, he shouted, "What? What say?" he called. Alice dropped to the ground and lay trembling. She was so frightened at the thought of what she had done that when the man had gone on his way, she did not dare to get to her feet, but crawled on hands and knees through the grass to the house. When she got to her own room, she bolted the door and drew her dressing table across the doorway. Her body shook as with a chill, and her hands trembled so that she had difficulty getting into her nightdress. When she got into bed, she buried her face in the pillow and wept broken-heartedly. "What is the matter with me? I will do something dreadful if I'm not careful," she thought, and, turning her face to the wall, began trying to force herself to face bravely the fact that many people must live and die alone, even in Winesburg. Pure, perfect, beautiful, heartbreaking literature which taps into maybe the most common emotion of all the emotions. Desire. Desire to be loved and to make a connection with another human being and to feel it, to feel that you want them and they want you. For a moment, you feel loved, especially if you've been waiting for it for such a long time. You know that it's missing from your life. Poor Alice Hindman. But in the end, she begins to realize the saddest realization. Some people must live and die alone, even in Winesburg. This will be one of the best books you will ever read. I promise. Not every single short story was perfect, but the majority of them. The first one, which is called Hands, what a wild place to start this collection. George Willard goes to meet this man who's very much a recluse. He lives on the outskirts of Winesburg. He doesn't talk to anyone. He wants to talk to George Willard, but he's afraid of something. And as we read the story, we learn what it is that he's afraid of, and it's terrible. The story about George's mother, oh my goodness. Another story about thwarted hope and thwarted desire. I would really just love to read passages from this book, but I think that makes for a very boring video, but I would just love it. I really get emotional reading this book. It just taps into these raw emotions. And Sherwood Anderson, he writes it so purely, like no fanfare, no bullshit, just the simple words on the page. That bit I read about Alice Hindman, like there's nothing really exceptional there in those sentences, but he conveys it all. Like a lot of these stories are quite interconnected. Like this one, there's one called The Strength of God concerning the Reverend Curtis Hartman, about a priest who makes this big revelation in the status of his faith. It's wild. And then the next story, The Teacher, concerning Kate Swift, those stories are critically linked. It's a novel. It's not a collection of short stories, even though it pretends to be. It's masquerading as one. There's quite a lot of things I love about 20th century literature. And I think this novel captures the majority of the things that I love. The subtlety, a very straightforward, no-nonsense approach to the style of the writing, but still being able to get into those deep, really deep, strong human emotions. There were a couple of stories that really brought the emotions out. I don't want to tell you which ones. I want them to be a surprise because who knows, it might be different for you, but just to be suddenly bowled over by the sheer force of this story written in this quite plain, straightforward manner, but like you don't need all those flowers and fireworks. It works perfectly as it is. And I think it is one of the best representations of American literature. There's an introduction to this book, and it talks a lot about his failed relationships with other writers. Now, it might come as a surprise to you. It came certainly as a surprise to me that Sherwood Anderson was quite a mentor to Ernest Hemingway. And Ernest Hemingway gets so much credit for changing the course of literature in the 20th century, but Sherwood Anderson was instrumental in shaping Hemingway's style. Like he wasn't just a pioneer all on his own. Sherwood Anderson was guiding him. Hemingway, later in his career, he turned his back on Sherwood Anderson. I don't think it's known why. I suspect if one artist is being mentored by another artist, they don't always want to spend their career in that person's shadow. And so at some point when that artist feels that they have launched their career, they tend to not want people to remember who their mentor was. You know, they always want to seem like a self-made man. And I feel Hemingway was very much like that. He didn't always want to be known as one of Sherwood Anderson's pupils. Also, William Faulkner owes quite a lot of his career to Sherwood Anderson, that they were friends. Sherwood Anderson helped get William Faulkner's earliest work published. Anderson was known, and he said, you know, I've discovered this writer, Faulkner, and I think you should give him a chance. And it was based on Anderson's recommendation that William Faulkner got published. Like, we might not have got all of William Faulkner's work if it weren't for Sherwood Anderson putting in the good word for him. And also, William Faulkner turned his back on Sherwood Anderson. Again, it's quite a mystery. Like, some of the greatest, most influential, most lauded American authors of the 20th century owe a debt to Sherwood Anderson. It is a travesty that he is not, like, whenever people talk about Hemingway, they don't always say, yeah, but Hemingway, where did he get it from? He got it from Anderson. I think that is a critical thing to be mentioned because, I think Hemingway, he's okay, but he's not my favorite. And, he was so full of himself that, I'm kind of sick of Hemingway because I can't get past the ego. Like, we need to give credit to where credit is due, and Hemingway, he got a lot from Sherwood Anderson. Like, even in that passage that I read, I think you could feel like that plainly stated style which Hemingway gets all the credit for. All right, let's not talk about Hemingway. Like, how is this for an introduction? Rereading Sherwood Anderson after many years, one feels again that his work is desperately uneven. But one is gratified to find that the best of it is as new and as spring-like as ever. There are many authors younger in years, he was born in 1876, who made a great noise in their time, but whose books already belong among the horseless carriages in Henry Ford's museum. Anderson made a great noise too when he published Winesburg, Ohio in 1919. The older critics scolded him, the younger ones praised him as a man of the changing hour. Yet he managed in that early work and others to be relatively timeless. There are moments in American life to which he gave not only the first, but the final expression. He soon became a writer's writer, the only storyteller of his generation who left his mark on the style and vision of the generation that followed. Hemingway, Faulkner, Woolf, Steinbeck, Caldwell, Saroyan, Henry Miller. Each of these owes an unmistakable debt to Anderson, and their names might stand for dozens of others. Hemingway was regarded as his disciple in 1920 when both men were living on the near north side of Chicago. Winesburg, Ohio was written when Anderson was 40, was the book in which he achieved the freshness and rightness of an author who, for the first time, is touching his highest mark. If you care about American literature, if you care about 20th century literature, if you're interested in the movement known as modernism, this is where it all begins. This novel, which appears to be a collection of short stories, but with a central character that runs through them all, connecting them all. This is one of the hallmarks of modernism. Okay, book lottery. Oh, you lucky devil, whoever gets this one. I'm sad to be parting with this one, but a deal's a deal, right? If you support my channel on Patreon or on YouTube members, I will put your name into this jar. When I review a book, I will pull out a name and I will send you that very book in the post. And I will include this, The Friend from Budapest by Grant Shipway, The Friend from Budapest Part 2 by Grant Shipway. This is my writing, and I am a writer, not just a handsome, happy-go-lucky YouTube book reviewer. I'm also a writer, and I really try quite hard and sincerely with writing. That's some of my stuff, and there was 100 of those, 25 of those. Those are collector's items, and I'm not getting any younger, so who knows how valuable they'll be in the future. Patrick England, not the guy who played Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street films. Patrick England, who lives in California somewhere, like close to Los Angeles, I do believe. I hope that you'll be happy to read that. At the end of this year, when I do my best books of 2025, that is going to be way at the top of the list. That'll be right up there in the top 3 for sure. It's perfect. It's pure, perfect literature. It's all right there in this relatively short book. All right, congratulations, Patrick. Thank you to everyone who supports the channel. I know that we're living in some hard times, so thank you very much, everyone supporting me. And Patrick also, grantlovesbooks@gmail.com. Send me your mailing address so I can get that into the post for you. And if you want to buy these, it's $15 or €15 or £15 or 15 karbovanets. Wherever you are, it's 15 of the local currency, not Hungarian forints, because that's less than 5 cents. And I'll mail you those, just those. Okay, guys, thank you very much for watching. This is Grant Loves Books. Have a great day. Winesburg, Ohio. Go out and find a copy. Do yourself a favor. Take care. It's so shameful. My sincere apologies to everyone who has been asking me, Grant, when are you going to finish those list videos? Sorry, guys. 3 years. That's outrageous. When I realized how long it's taken me, I feel guilty about it. And you are all right to be chastising me, saying, finish the videos, dummy. I think the last one I did in order was Deliverance, number 42. And I did a couple out of order. I did one, The Great Gatsby. I did another one for The Bridge of San Luis Rey. And I think I did a few more out of order, maybe Slaughterhouse-Five. I've got 40 books to talk about. Only 2 of them I haven't read. The 2 books by the author I hate the most, Henry James. So that means I've got, say, about 40 books. And if I do 4 to 5 books per video, 8 to 10 videos. Can I promise you that I will get those videos made by the end of 2025? In good faith? Let's see, today is Saturday, June the 21st. 6 months. The reason I haven't been working on the list so very much recently is that a lot of these books I read such a long time ago, and I hate to say that, oh, I read it a long time ago, so I don't really remember. I specifically read The Bridge of San Luis Rey because I knew I liked it, but I couldn't really remember it very clearly. And when I read it earlier this year, it was simply one of the greatest books I've ever read of all time. You know, and it really made me reconsider the list because I think these books all deserve to be reread, but not Henry James. Okay, Animal Farm, I don't have to read that again. But a book like the Studs Lonergan trilogy, and that's a trilogy, that's about 900 pages. Appointment in Samara by John O'Hara, like that is an amazing book, but like what am I going to tell you if I read it not that long ago? 15 years ago. So that's been my dilemma. Grant just finished the list. Okay, all right. I, Grant, the Jackhammer Shipway, hereby solemnly vow on this day, Saturday, June the 21st, with my hand on my love of this list of literature, promise you, the faithful viewer, that I will finish this list video review book review list video by the end of 2025, okay? Hold me to it. That beer is shit.